On my wedding day, my fiancé's family tried to force me to kneel and bow to every single one of them. It was a local custom, they said. If I didn't, it meant I was disrespectful. I told them my spiritual energy was unique and powerful. I couldn't just kneel for anyone. They wouldn't listen. They were even about to use force to make me comply. Well, you can't talk sense into people who are determined to be fools. So being the dutiful daughter-in-law I decided to listen. I knelt for them, one by one, keeping count, bowing in every direction. I bowed his 70-year-old mother into a bloody coughing fit. I bowed his third aunt into a dead faint. His fourth and fifth uncles developed high blood pressure, heart attacks, and debilitating strokes. One was left with a crooked mouth and a wandering eye. I was just so respectful it nearly killed them. I had been with my boyfriend for 5 years, and we were finally getting married. I was up at 4 a.m. getting ready, sitting in my red wedding dress, waiting for him to come pick me up. Firecrackers popped outside. They said the groom was here. Full of excitement, I started to walk out the door, but my parents and brother stopped me. My parents didn't look happy at all. They just stood there, frowning with long faces. I knew why. It was because I hadn't asked his family for any money. My brother wasn't happy either. The money from his sister's weddings was supposed to pay for his future wife. Now he'd just have to rely on my 2 older sisters. Chloe, it's a family tradition for the bride to be carried out wrapped in a quilt. We'll have a few of your cousins carry you. I looked at the big red quilt they had ready, then at my cousins, who were all staring at me with greasy, leering looks. I knew exactly what was on their minds. Before I could even say a word, they rushed forward with the quilt to wrap me up. I'll walk out myself. Don't you touch me. A bride, beautifully dressed on her wedding day, being bundled up like a package and thrown into the wedding car. It made me feel like I wasn't a person. I was just an object being handed over. They ignored me, throwing the red quilt over my head. I struggled, but it was useless. Suddenly, a strong hand pulled me free. My hair was a mess as I looked up at the man holding me. It was Leo, my fiancé. He smoothed my messy hair and whispered comforting words in my ear. It's okay. I'm here. My nose tingled, and I almost started to cry. Mom, Dad, I'm taking her now. Without waiting for a reply, he turned his back on my parents' furious faces and strode away. I felt a sense of peace and security I had never known before. As we got into the wedding car, my mom brought out a basin of water. Before the car even pulled away, she splashed it all over the road. Good riddance, you bad luck charm. You worthless girl. She spat hard on the ground and slammed the front door shut. The people who came with Leo to pick me up all looked uncomfortable. No one had a tradition of throwing water at a departing daughter. Anyone could see how little my family thought of me. Afraid I'd be upset, Leo pulled me into his arms. We're a family now. You and me. I nodded. I would have a new family, and I would never come back here. Growing up, my parents never had a kind word for me. I used to think it was because I wasn't good enough. I tried to be like the girl from the village everyone praised. I studied hard, did chores, and even worked during school breaks to bring money home. But all those years of effort earned me nothing but beatings and the label a waste of money. When I got my college acceptance letter, they wouldn't let me go. They said they had already arranged a marriage for me and I had to get married right away. In that moment, after more than a decade of confusion, my mind suddenly cleared. I finally understood they didn't love me. So I ran away and put myself through college. That's where I met Leo. Leo and I grew up in neighboring small towns. We had originally planned to have the wedding at a hotel in the city. But Leo said the elders in his town had trouble getting around, and that a local wedding would be more lively. In the end, I agreed to have it in his town. The wedding customs in our towns were mostly the same, so I knew there weren't any outrageous traditions. I rested my head on his chest as the car bounced along the mountain road. He held me tight. After we're married, I'll always be good to you. Leo was handsome, and during our relationship, he always put me first. I was very happy with him. I smiled, imagining the happy life we would have together. Soon we arrived at Leo's town. The streets were filled with people who had come out to watch. Firecrackers were going off, and everyone had a joyful smile. They all seemed so friendly, shouting congratulations and well wishes. When we got to his house, relatives and friends were lined up on both sides to welcome us. This, I thought, is what a wedding should feel like. Leo helped me out of the car. As we reached the front door, I saw a pair of old, torn pants hanging from the doorframe. My smile froze. I was sure this was not a local custom. For a bride to pass under her husband's pants on her wedding day meant she would be beneath him for the rest of her life. I looked at Leo, confused. He avoided my eyes and scratched his head. I knew this was his tell when he felt guilty. My mom insisted on it. You know how she is, she's getting old, and she had me so late in life, so she really wants to make sure he has the upper hand after marriage? I tilted my head and looked at him. The smiles on the faces of the people around us had vanished. Honey, the old folks are, well, they're uneducated and superstitious. Just humor them. It's not like you believe in this stuff. It's just a formality to make his mom feel better. One of the relatives chimed in. Leo whispered in my ear, pleading, "Please, babe, please? I'll walk under them with you." My heart, which had started to harden, suddenly softened. Fine. Let's go. Leo was a late-in-life baby. His parents were nearly 40 when he was born. His mother was already 70. She was old and superstitious, so I figured I could let it go. After all, I was marrying Leo, not his mother. He put his arm around my shoulder, and we walked into the courtyard together. The courtyard was also packed with people, all smiling at us. Just then, a middle-aged woman walked up. Leo introduced her as his cousin. She took my hand and patted it fondly. Our little Leo is so lucky to marry such a beautiful girl. Then she started guiding us through the ceremony. We finished paying respects to heaven and earth in the main hall. It was barely 8 a.m. A few days earlier, Leo had told me he was so eager to marry me that he'd set the pickup time extra early. I didn't expect we'd be done with the main ceremony before it was even time for the reception to start. Just when I thought we could just sit and wait for the meal, his cousin led me to the family's ancestral hall. Leo lit some incense and handed it to me. Honey, after you offer this incense, you'll officially be introduced to my ancestors. I took the incense, bowed, and placed it in the burner. Just as I turned to leave, his cousin brought over a chair with a bamboo basket under it. She told me to sit down. Let our ancestors get a good look at such a beautiful girl. I was confused and looked at Leo again. He gave me a reassuring look, so I did as I was told and sat down. Then the entire hall went completely silent. I turned to look behind me and saw that all the onlookers had vanished. Even Leo was gone. Just as I stood up, his cousin rushed out from a corner and pushed me back down onto the chair. You can't leave. You have to sit here for 3 hours. I froze on the spot. 3 hours? My back was already weak. Sitting for 3 hours would wreck me. Ma'am, I have a bad back. Can we just skip the 3 hours? Do the ancestors really need to look at me for that long? Her expression soured. The kind, joyful look on her face was gone, replaced by an impatient frown. What do you mean? Look at you. A new bride needs to have her spirit broken. You're getting off easy with 3 hours because you're Leo's wife. Otherwise, it would be 6. I was floored. What was this? This was clearly an obedience test. I had no idea where they learned this from. I'd lived here my whole life and never heard of a neighboring town having such a custom. It seemed this was specially prepared for me. I wasn't about to put up with it. I stood up and started walking out. She grabbed my sleeve to stop me. She kept yelling that I couldn't be disrespectful to the ancestors. They're not my ancestors. In the end, she couldn't hold me back. I broke free and ran outside. The first thing I saw was Leo, squatting in a corner with a group of men, smoking a cigarette. He never used to smoke. What was I seeing? He was surprised to see me out so soon and quickly threw the cigarette away. Honey, why are you out so early? My already bad mood got even worse after he said that. So you knew I was supposed to sit in there for 3 hours? You told me there were no bad customs, but you were planning all along for me to sit there for hours while you just relaxed and smoked out here. I yelled at him. He stiffened for a moment, looking flustered. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a few of the men covering their faces to hide their laughter. Babe, trust me, I really didn't know. I thought you were just going in for 10 minutes. A flash of annoyance crossed his eyes before he quickly composed himself. A seed of doubt was planted in my mind. Suddenly, I felt like the Leo the first knew was starting to crack, that the act was slipping. I knew I wasn't just imagining things. But we were in the middle of our wedding, so I had to keep going. His cousin ran out, her kind and gentle mask back in place. Time to wash the groom's feet. I groaned internally. What now? But Leo explained. You wash my feet first, then I'll wash yours. It symbolizes harmony in our marriage. Another custom I'd never heard of. I had a feeling a huge trap was waiting for me. I smiled sweetly and agreed. His cousin brought over a basin, and Leo was about to sit on the bed. The crowd had the same look of excited anticipation, some even looking gleeful. The way they were looking at me was definitely not friendly. I pushed him aside, plopped down on the edge of the bed myself, and put my feet in the basin of warm water. I kicked off my red heels and dunked my feet in. I then pushed the stunned Leo in front of the basin and gave him a look. Aren't we washing feet? You can go first. Between husband and wife, it doesn't matter who goes first. Leo looked like he wanted to say something, but in the end, he knelt down in front of me. Before his hand could even touch my foot, a shrill, elderly voice shrieked. A cane came swinging at me. Who do you think you are? Making my son wash your feet. It was Leo's 70-year-old mother, who hadn't said a word until now. I dodged her by nimbly scrambling onto the bed, knocking over the basin in the process. The water splashed all over Leo, even on his face. I used the red quilt to dry my wet feet. The crowd gasped. I looked at Leo's mother with feigned innocence. We both have to do it, right? What does it matter who goes first? Then, as if a light bulb went off, I added in a cool tone. Or were you babying him so much that you never intended for him to wash my feet at all? Leo, who had always been gentle with me, now had a dark, unreadable expression. I could clearly see him clenching his jaw. He was angry. Very angry. His chest heaved, but he quickly smoothed his expression back to its usual calm. I marveled at his ability to switch faces. I finally realized he had been putting on an act for me all this time. Honey, my mom's old. Her mind isn't always clear. I'll have her go rest, and we can continue with the ceremony, okay? He softened his voice, speaking to me cautiously. I looked at the room full of unfriendly faces and nodded sensibly. After they cleaned up the mess, I put my red heels back on. His cousin led me to Leo's elders. He introduced them to me one by one, and after each introduction, he knelt and bowed. Honey, it's tradition to bow to the elders at a wedding. I'll do it with you. I looked at the courtyard full of people, all waiting for us to kneel, and I smiled. I have a unique spiritual energy. Whoever I bow to has their life shortened. Are you sure you still want me to kneel? I stood up straight and spoke loudly. I made sure every single one of them could hear me clearly. My best friend, who came from a family of spiritualists, had told me about this. She said I was an old soul, someone with a powerful, noble spirit from past lives. She said no ordinary person could withstand a formal bow from me. I hadn't believed her. If I truly had such a grand destiny, how could I have been born to my parents? I grew up poor, hungry, and constantly scorned by them. But then one time, my friend and I were nearly abducted. In a moment of desperation, I dropped to my knees and begged the kidnapper for mercy. The man, who had been gloating seconds before, dropped dead on the spot. After that, I believed. For the sake of others' health and safety, I vowed to kneel only to heaven and earth, but never to another person. Niece, you've married into our family. You must show respect to our elders. Don't give us any of that superstitious nonsense. When it didn't benefit them, it was superstition. When it did, it was tradition. I scoffed. That's right. Once you're someone's wife, you can't stand so tall anymore. It's good to have weak knees. They chimed in one after another, trying to persuade me. I turned to Leo. Do you think so too? Leo grabbed my hand, insisting that I kneel. Honey, all the elders are here. You can't embarrass me like this. I asked him again to be sure. Are you sure you want me to kneel? He got annoyed with my questioning and yanked me down to the ground. My knees slammed into the concrete, and I cried out in pain. Leo seemed to realize he'd gone too far, and quickly pulled me into his arms to check on me. I'm sorry, honey, I got anxious. But there are so many people watching. A fake smile spread across my face. Well, you're the one who said I should. I turned to his 70-year-old mother in front of me and slammed my forehead to the ground. The next moment his mother fainted. The courtyard erupted in chaos as people rushed to carry her away. They just assumed the old woman had fainted from exhaustion. Leo was pleased with my obedience and pulled me toward the next elder. Leo's wife, from now on you must put Leo first. He's the man of the house. A woman's job is to have children and continue the family line. Before he could finish his sermon, I bowed my head to the ground. Instantly, the man who had been so arrogant just a moment ago sprayed a mouthful of blood. It splattered all over Leo's face. I had already anticipated it and stepped aside. Another wave of panic as they carried that man away. They still thought it was a coincidence. I moved to the third elder and bowed. He started foaming at the mouth. The fourth elder had an instant stroke, his face contorting. The fifth, the sixth. Even the slowest person in the crowd started to realize what was happening. Suddenly, no one wanted me to bow to them. But I grabbed them, insisting on bowing to each one. Leo was frozen in place, watching as one elder after another collapsed. Only I remained, diligently showing my respect. I bowed, one went down. I bowed again, another went down. More and more people were collapsing. The same people who had just been demanding my respect were now screaming for me to stop. Stop bowing. Please stop. I'm scared. They wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. To prevent me from escaping, they had locked the main gate. Well, now it wasn't just keeping me in, it was keeping them in too. They scrambled around the courtyard in a panic. I just knelt in the middle of it all, bowing in every direction. Even if their backs were to me, if I bowed in their direction, they'd collapse as if struck by a heavy blow. Some dropped dead, some coughed up blood. Only those with strong constitutions could withstand it, suffering minor injuries. The rest were soon lying on the ground, groaning in agony. Leo saw the situation spiraling out of control. The look he gave me was one of pure terror. I slapped my thigh as if I'd just had a revelation. Oh my, what bad luck. On my wedding day of all days, and everyone is suddenly falling ill. His cousin was one of the resilient ones. She struggled to her feet and pointed at me. Get her out of here. She's a monster. As soon as she finished speaking, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. The gate was still locked. I scrambled up the wall in a few seconds and jumped over. Leo and I were done. I grabbed my car keys from where I'd stashed them behind his house, slammed the gas pedal, and got the hell out of there. I left the whole mess for Leo to clean up. The townspeople who had gathered to watch the wedding just stood there, mouths agape, as they saw the bride speed away in a car. It took me 2 hours to get back to my apartment. I met Leo in my senior year of college. 5 years, all down the drain. It was impressive he could keep up the act for 5 years. If he doesn't win an Oscar, I'm calling it a rigged system. I called my best friend, who was living abroad. I told her everything, from beginning to end. I read your charts. You two were never meant to be. But you wouldn't listen. You insisted on getting married. Well, now the wedding is a disaster, and so are the people. My friend had indeed checked our astrological compatibility. But this was before the kidnapping incident, before the strange things happening around me were ever confirmed. I was still in a phase of stubbornly refusing to believe in superstition. So when she told me our charts didn't align, I didn't take it seriously. By the time my strange power was validated, I had completely forgotten about the charts. If I had listened to you earlier, I wouldn't have wasted so many years watching him act. But why would he act for you? Just to marry you? And why put you through an obedience test and try to break you on your wedding day? That was a good question. What was his motive? He couldn't be a social climber, since my family was just a poor rural family. I didn't have a rich, powerful father. If it was just for my looks, he could have had plenty of other girls in college with his handsome face. Why? And his whole family clearly knew about it, but they kept it a secret from me. I hung up the phone, my head full of questions. The next day, I found out why. My biological parents found me. I was still trying to wrap my head around the fact that the man I'd loved for 5 years had ulterior motives, and then the answer just showed up at my door. I couldn't cancel my pre-approved wedding leave, so I planned to just relax at home for a few days. Around noon, I heard a knock. When I opened the door, a family of 4 stood there, perfectly put together. They all looked at me with tears in their eyes. I was a bit flustered and asked them if I could help them. The woman, already crying, rushed forward, grabbed my hands, and pulled me into a hug. "Chloe, my baby, Mom finally found you." I was completely bewildered. The man behind her was studying me intently. "The resemblance, it's uncanny. You look exactly like your mother when she was young. We've been looking for you for so many years, and we finally found you." I pulled away from her and saw that her eyes and features were indeed identical to mine. "An enemy of ours kidnapped you when you were a baby. We never gave up looking for you. We searched all over the country, and to think our daughter was working in our own company all along." It turned out they had been searching for me ever since I was taken. Just recently, at a company-wide meeting, my twin brother saw me in the crowd. My striking resemblance to our mother caught his attention, and he started investigating. Coincidentally, the man who had kidnapped me was just arrested for other crimes. They learned from him that he had given me to his relatives. He had told them who I was and warned them to never let me leave the small town. Those relatives were my adoptive parents. No wonder they had always been so cold to me, hostile even. No matter how obedient I was, no matter how much I tried to please them, they never had a kind word for me. They would beat me whenever they were in a bad mood. Now I knew why. That couple wasn't my parents at all. I had a real family that loved me. Thinking of all the years of suffering, the 4 of us hugged and cried together. They had searched for me so publicly that their faces had been all over the media. As I looked at the missing person flyer they were holding, I suddenly remembered seeing one on Leo's phone when we first started dating. I had even commented that it would be hard to find the person without a photo. He had looked away, quickly putting the phone down. He claimed he just saved it to help spread the word because he felt sorry for them. I didn't doubt him at the time. Looking back now, I realize he had already seen the resemblance between me and my biological mother. He was gambling that I was the long-lost daughter of the Taylor family. We were each other's first love, and we were about to get married. If we had officially registered our marriage, he would have brought me to the Taylor's doorstep. One look and they would know I was their daughter. And if the Taylor family accepted their long-lost daughter, they would have to accept her husband, too. He would have achieved his social climbing dream, becoming a true gold digger. The sudden realization hit me like a ton of bricks. He knew all along but kept it to himself out of selfishness, just waiting to tie me to him legally after the wedding. We all calmed down. I had a twin brother and an adopted older sister. My sister, Mia, was a crier. From the moment she saw me, her tears hadn't stopped. My brother handed her a pack of tissues, and she just sobbed quietly in the corner. My brother, Alex, was the calm and steady one. Looking at the man I had only ever seen from afar at company meetings, the big boss, I felt my knees go a little weak. I hadn't quite adjusted to him being my brother. He patted my head, his voice gentle and completely different from his usual serious tone. "It's good to have you back, sis. We've always kept your room ready for you, just waiting for you to come home." My nose tingled, and I threw myself into his arms, hugging him tight. Growing up, I had always envied kids who had an older brother to protect them. All I had was a mischievous, mean, and ugly little brother named Junior. Now my wish had come true. I had a brother, and a sister who, despite her quiet crying, truly cared for me. My phone rang. Lost in the joy of finding my family, I answered without checking the caller ID. Leo's angry roar came through the receiver. "Chloe, our wedding was going perfectly yesterday, and you just ran off and left me with this mess. Are you trying to break up with me?" The old me would have started apologizing frantically if he even mentioned breaking up. My upbringing had made me sensitive and insecure. I would have clung to him like he was my only lifeline. But things were different now. After seeing his true colors, I had no desire to talk to him. Just as I was about to hang up, he said something outrageous. "You injured all my relatives when you bowed to them yesterday. You have to come back and take care of them. Otherwise, my family will be a disgrace in this town. And you have to pay the medical bills since you caused all this." He was desperate now, unable to even pretend anymore. He was so sure I'd marry him and just put up with his family for the rest of my life. I laughed. You all said it was just superstition and forced me to do it. I told you it was a coincidence. We should believe in science. You, a guy with a degree from a top university, don't you get that? He tried to say something else, but I cut him off. You kept up the act for 5 years and you finally cracked. Thank God we didn't sign the marriage certificate, or it would have been a lot harder to get away. With that, I hung up. I told my family the whole story. They were furious, stomping their feet, and wanting to go give him a piece of their mind. I quickly stopped them, telling them not to get upset over someone like that. Besides, I already broke them, I added with a smirk. I then told them what my friend had said about my special fate. You should have seen it. People were coughing up blood, foaming at the mouth, having strokes, and some just dropped dead on the spot. It was spectacular. They laughed, but I could still see the sadness in their eyes. My poor child, you've suffered so much. Leo called again and again. I just blocked his number. When I got to my real home, I saw a clean, tidy room decorated in soft pink. My heart ached. They had searched for me for over 20 years, and I couldn't imagine the hardships they faced. They had kept a room for me all this time, ready to treat me like a princess. My sister, Mia, took my hand and opened the closet, which was filled with expensive clothes. Little sis, I didn't know what you like, so I just bought all the new arrivals for the season. Pick whatever you like. If you don't like anything, I'll go buy you more. I hugged her arm and whispered, thank you. Chloe, you've really been through so much. Her tears started flowing again. I quickly comforted her and wiped her tears. Just then my brother said, don't be a stranger. This is your home. If you want anything, just tell us. He ruffled my hair. My wedding leave ended, and I had to go back to work. As soon as I entered the company building, I ran into Leo. He saw me and jogged over. He looked like a wreck, greasy hair unshaven, with 2 dark circles under his eyes. It was clear he hadn't been having a good time. Chloe. He grabbed my arm, and I smelled a sour odor coming from him. I wrinkled my nose in disgust. We worked at the same company, just in different departments. I thought he would have taken a few more days off because of the mess at home, but it seemed he had come back early just to find me. Chloe, we're married. You can't just walk out on me. He shouted, and people coming in and out for work all turned to look at us. What does that have to do with me? I told you it was a coincidence. But it happened right after you bowed to them. You even said yourself that bowing would shorten their lives. That set me off. At the wedding, you were the one who forced me to bow to all those people. I made up an excuse to get out of it, and you all insisted I do it. Now by coincidence they all got sick, and you're blaming their strokes, heart attacks, and cancer on me? Go grab anyone here and ask them if they believe I have the power to do that with a simple bow. I yelled louder than him, successfully getting the passers-by to stop and watch. People started murmuring. Forcing someone to bow at a wedding? I've never heard of anything so backward. Yeah, that's absurd. Blaming a family's health problems on the person who bowed. Leo's face turned red. He knew he was embarrassing himself, so he grabbed my wrist and tried to drag me outside. I resisted, and we started to struggle. A warm hand rescued me, and a foot sent Leo flying. My brother looked at my red wrist, his usual calm demeanor replaced by barely contained anger. You're fired. Leo scrambled up from the floor and saw how close my brother and I were. He thought he'd figured it out. I knew it. You ran out on our wedding because you already had someone else lined up. My brother had no patience for his nonsense. Mr. Zhou, he said to an assistant, make sure I never see him in this company again. Only then did Leo notice that everyone had gone silent, and that his own department head was standing respectfully behind my brother. He looked confused. I couldn't stand to look at him anymore. Alex, let's go upstairs. I think I ate too much for breakfast. I need to walk around. Hearing me call him brother seemed to strike Leo like a bolt of lightning. I leaned in close to his stunned face. If you had just kept the act up for a few more days, your master plan would have succeeded. But you had to go and blow it at the last minute. My real parents found me. Without another glance at his devastated figure, I took my brother's arm and went upstairs. After that day, Leo never appeared at the company again. One day, I answered a call from an unknown number. It was Leo. "Chloe, for the sake of our years together, please help me. I didn't know anything about what was going to happen on our wedding day. It was all my family's idea to give you a hard time." I burst out laughing. "Do you think I'm an idiot? Or that I'm deaf and blind and you can just fool me? You knew from the start I was my parents' daughter. You just kept it a secret so you could marry me, then have a grand family reunion that would benefit you, the new son-in-law." Now that I had exposed his scheme, he dropped the pitiful act. His voice was filled with rage. "I don't care. We had a wedding ceremony, so we're husband and wife. And it was your fault that all my relatives got sick or died. That's your responsibility." Then he softened his tone again. "We're a team. Shouldn't we bear these responsibilities together?" I laughed in disbelief. "Who's on a team with you? Don't forget, we never got our marriage license. Legally, you and I are nothing to each other. Stop trying to guilt-trip me with that old act. Are you really going to be this ruthless? If you won't show any mercy, then I won't be polite either." He hung up after his threat. I just thought it was bizarre. The next day, my adoptive parents showed up at my company. I knew Leo must have told them about my real parents finding me. They were holding a banner that called me an ungrateful traitor for acknowledging my real parents. My colleagues all stopped to watch, but they weren't about to believe their side of the story. They were just there for the drama. My mom had come to pick up my siblings and me for dinner. She arrived at the entrance just as this circus was unfolding, and I was just walking out. My adoptive parents and my brother, Junior, lunged at me like hungry wolves, grabbing me and trying to drag me away. "We raised you for 20 years. You ungrateful wolf. You abandon us the second you find your real parents." He expected the crowd to join in his outrage, but they didn't. People just watched quietly, not even speaking loudly. My parents were furious when they saw this and started fighting with them to get me back. I went for the head of the snake, kicking Junior squarely in the crotch. He let out a howl and crumpled to the ground. Seeing their precious son hurt, my adoptive parents let go of me and rushed to his side. "That's the only heir to the Miller family. If you've broken him, you'll pay." My adoptive mother had always been a loudmouth, known throughout the towns as a shrew. "I'm telling you, even if you found your real parents, you can't just walk away after we raised you for free. You owe us $1 million or we're not leaving." She plopped down on the ground, shamelessly ready to make a scene. My parents had never dealt with anything like this. I leaned over and whispered something to my dad. He rolled up his sleeves and charged in. My brother and sister, who had rushed down, joined the fray. The two groups started scuffling. Suddenly, my dad yelped, fell to the ground, clutched his head, and yelled for someone to call the police. When the crowd saw the big boss go down, they rushed in to break up the fight. They helped him up. I then stormed forward, pointing at the family of 3. "I'm telling you, this isn't over. You dared to push my dad. We're calling the police. We need to get him to the hospital for a checkup. I just found my father. I'm not going to let you harm him." Police officers from the nearby station arrived. My sister and mom took my dad to the hospital. My brother and I stayed behind to handle things. At the police station, I made the first move. I rolled up my sleeves, revealing the scars on my arms. I want to press charges for child abuse. All these scars are from when they beat me as a child. My brother's heart broke. He glared at the couple. He gently took my arm and examined it closely. The scars had faded over time, leaving only faint marks. But my adoptive parents were unfazed, brazenly denying it. "You got those from playing and falling down. Who can prove we did that? We worked our fingers to the bone to raise you, a child who wasn't even ours. Not only are you ungrateful, but you're also trying to frame us." They were convinced they held the moral high ground. "I can prove it. Mom and Dad did hit Chloe." My eldest sister, who had been silent the whole time, unexpectedly spoke up. I had thought she and my other sister would remain silent, completely invisible, but she stood up to testify for me. My second sister stood up too. "I can prove it too. Whenever my parents were unhappy, they would hit us. Not just Chloe, but us too." They also rolled up their sleeves, revealing their own deep and shallow scars. My adoptive parents never expected their own daughters to turn against them. They started cursing, spewing vile words. It was all the usual stuff about ungrateful brats, raising them for nothing, and worthless girls. The sisters completely ignored their parents' curses. And I saw a man bring Chloe to my parents. My parents have only been pregnant 3 times. They knew Chloe was stolen from another family. That statement was like a clap of thunder. I looked in shock at my 2 sisters, who had always been so quiet and withdrawn. With witnesses and their testimony, my adoptive parents would face legal consequences. My lawyer will be filing a lawsuit against you both. Get ready to be served, my brother said coldly, looking at them as if they were trash. My brother Junior, who was always so arrogant at home, had been cowering in a corner like a quail ever since we got to the police station. He was completely useless. My adoptive parents jumped up, ready to hit my sisters. For once, my sisters fought back, pushing them away. Their eyes were red as tears streamed down their faces. I've had enough of you. You can forget about selling us off to get a bride for your stupid son. My dad wasn't actually hurt, he was just pretending. But we had them pay for a full battery of tests and exams, making them bleed a significant amount of money. We just treated it as a free health checkup. The company's legal team sued them. A year later, the case went to trial, and they were sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. My brother Junior, who spent his days gambling and carousing, finally gambled away the last of the family's assets. He also contracted a nasty disease. He eventually died on the streets. As for Leo, his family blamed him for everything, and he became a pariah in his town. He had no money to pay for their medical treatments. He had no choice but to take his 70-year-old mother and leave his hometown. He was also blacklisted from my city and couldn't find a job in his field. He had to move to another city to look for opportunities. I never heard from him again. My older sisters, freed from the cage of their family, flew out into a world of freedom. And I am now living happily with my mom, dad, brother, and sister. We are determined to make up for all the happiness that was lost in the first 20 years of my life. The end.